Good evening and welcome everybody to the Boardmen Don't Get Paid podcast. We're on to week 6 of our NFL season. And look who's back. We've got Dhruv back with a new poster in the background.
Speaking of back-to-back champs, LA Lakers.
Not happening for the Dodgers this year, apparently.
They need to win one championship before they...
I've not been alive yet for a Dodgers championship, and that makes me very sad. And tonight just made me even sadder. But the show must go on, and we must
Death,
support.
taxes, and Clayton Kershaw choking in October.
Even my Giants fans are sad for Kershaw. Like let's move on to NFL. I don't want to talk about baseball anymore. So, welcome back, Dhruv. Would you like to tell the podcast a little bit of where you've been the last 2 weeks? We never got a text back from you, so we were really worried.
Okay, you can stop with that. Yes, you did get a couple texts back. Get out of here. So I was in Cabo with Yash about a week and a half ago. I was extremely sick when I came back, and that lasted throughout the week. And I somehow still gutted it out and went to another bachelor party in New Orleans the week after. Somehow after that, I actually feel recovered, feel good. I went to the Saints game on Sunday, got to see the GOAT, Teddy, do his thing. He actually played pretty well. That Saints defense was kind of on fire.
Shout out to Yash for recommending Teddy B
Did
as
you
a
really?
GPP play.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Hell of a call. Did you
So
play
you
him?
watch our last episode, Dhruv?
I did. I'm just trying to act like I didn't. But
You didn't get Wi-Fi in Mexico?
I was in New Orleans at the time.
They're
But
not recovered from Katrina yet, but
no, I haven't. But the Teddy Bridgewater breakout game finally happened, and Michael Thomas, man, what a beast! And
Yeah.
and did you know that Chris Godwin and Mike Evans combined for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns?
they have such a great wide receiver duo there, don't they?
What a hell of a duo!
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Michael Thomas, let's get right into my cash game lineup. And right here, Michael Thomas, what a guy, man. 44.2 fantasy points. I think he was just way too cheap at 6,600. I thought he was a must play in cash, just because he was in a great matchup against that leaky Tampa Bay secondary. And man, yeah, I don't know what more to say. I don't know why he was only 35% owned, but I'm glad I managed to get him at that price, at that ownership in cash games. So he carried, honestly, like cash games was a little tougher this week because there were like 4 guys who were kind of popular in cash games that all kind of went off, and you needed at least like 2 of these guys to do well. Luckily for me, I actually had all 4 guys in my cash game lineup, as you can see here. Christian McCaffrey was the other one who was 43% owned, and you needed Christian McCaffrey. Like I think when we talked last week, we just said plug in Christian McCaffrey and worry about all the other players next. I think we kind of talked about Ezekiel Elliott, but there was no way I was gonna leave my cash lineup with Christian McCaffrey. I don't know if I said that right.
Without Christian McCaffrey in it.
Without
Your
Christian,
lineup
there you
was
go.
always going to have Christian McCaffrey.
Good English, guys. Thank you. And then as the week progressed, I liked Dalvin Cook, but I couldn't fit Dalvin Cook into the lineup that I wanted. That had McCaffrey and Ezekiel Elliott, who was my other cash game player that I thought was in a great spot, 44% owned. I just thought CMC and Zeke were straight up the best cash game plays you could have. Zeke was in such a nut matchup against Green Bay that just surrendered like 500 yards rushing to the Philadelphia Eagles running backs. Not accurate number, but it felt like that. And I had to go cheap with Tyler Eifert at my tight end. Went cheap with Alden Tate. So that's how I got Zeke and McCaffrey into my lineups. As the week progressed, I was on Cook, I was on DJ, I was on Mixon, but I ended up getting on to Aaron Jones, and that honestly was the play of the day besides Fuller. Jones, man, he just torched that Dallas defense. 52 fantasy points. And the only reason that I was on him was because I thought he was going to get an opportunity. No Jamal Williams, no Devontae Adams. He was going to be their number one red zone threat, other than maybe Jimmy Graham. But I liked the opportunity there. I don't know how good of an opportunity that he was going to get, but I figured he was in line for a good 25 touches, and I was definitely wanted that in my lineup. And then I was on Matt Ryan. I think Yash recommended Matt Ryan as a great play, and went with it. He was only 5,900, and like we said last week, he's been throwing for 300 yards every game. Now he gets a matchup against Houston, which is a pretty high octane offense. Figured they're going to be down. He'd have to throw it more. Like, he did not have a good game and still managed to put up 36 points. I don't know how he keeps doing it, but I'm not going to complain. Definitely helped my cash line up there. And lastly, I ended up getting onto Will Fuller for my cash game wide receiver. There were a lot of other options I could have gone with, but I figured, Will Fuller normally isn't a cash game type play, but I just thought that he was in such a good spot against Atlanta. He was getting the opportunities. Last week or 2 weeks ago, he would have had 2 touchdowns if Deshaun Watson didn't overthrow him by about 5 yards both times. I just felt like he had a very high floor given his price. He was only 4,500, but I thought his floor was maybe about at least like 8 or 9. I could have lived with that, but I figured his ceiling would allow me to win cash games outright if he reached the ceiling, which he managed to do this week. And then lastly, I put the Vikings in as my plug and play defense against the Giants. Worked out, got me 12 points. Not going to complain there. So that's my cash lineup for the week.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah, and Dhruv was a little busy with New Orleans, so he didn't have to play a cash lineup this week. And Yash, I don't know. Yash never plays cash.
I didn't play. I told myself I would start last week, but I just didn't have enough time.
Yeah, no worries. Well, let's talk about your GPP lineup. So we've had a little bit of a malfunction with this lineup, but you can see it on the screen. You can just talk through your lineup a little bit and kind of mention your plays.
Yeah. So started off with Matt Ryan. So I mean, I don't need to explain anymore. Lawrence gave a pretty good breakdown, but I was pretty high on him, and so he was definitely at 5,900. He was, I think, the QB of choice. I did tout Teddy Bridgewater in the last episode, and he went off as well. He would have gotten me a little extra cash to put to some other position, but I'm perfectly fine with Ryan in this spot. My running backs. So Eckler his score should have been a lot higher. I was happy with the pick. I'm happy with the pick, and I don't have any regrets. He got me 23 points. His price was drastically. I mean, it dropped by about 1,700 or something, 1,300 to 1,700. But he was like in the mid 6,000s, and he basically had at the end of the first half, the Chargers ran just a terrible gadget play and had Eckler run this like horizontal route, and he ended up fumbling at the goal line.
That's a 7-point swing right there.
Yeah, it was just a little hard. And as a Chargers fan, I was like just fuming. It was really bad play calling. So yeah, but 23 points, can't be mad. Obviously, having someone like CMC or Aaron Jones in there would have been a lot better. But my next pick, James Conner, disappointed a lot. I don't know what the play calling is going over. The offensive coordinator, what he's doing. Baltimore's been shredded. I mean, Baltimore just got shredded by Nick Chubb last week, or the game prior, and Connor barely ran the ball. It was extremely disappointing, and the majority of those points that you see were from receptions, I believe. It's just, I don't know. Honestly, like Pittsburgh offense, like you can't trust any of them right now. Juju, James Conner, you just gotta leave it alone.
Yeah, I don't even know who they're starting this week.
Yeah, like Hodges or something. I don't know. They're like out like 3 quarterbacks, and Washington or Samuels. Samuels is their like 5th quarterback.
I think he's their emergency QB, so Samuels would be playing quarterback if they don't sign one, and Hodges gets injured. Yeah, I think that's just a situation we should avoid.
Yeah. So suffice to say, I won't be rostering any Pittsburgh players anymore. Even though I had said Mason Rudolph last week, and I think he had a decent start, but then he just got annihilated. So hopefully you get better. Pulling for you. Next spot, Julio Jones. This is the second time I've rostered him this season, and this is the second time that he's gotten me basically my lowest score besides defense, I believe. Just like, I don't know what to say. You look at Atlanta, they put up 32 points, and then you look at Julio's score, and he only has 7 fantasy points, and he was my most expensive player. I think it's one of those things where you need to target like someone like Mohamed Sanu or Calvin Ridley or even Austin Hooper if you want to stack with Matt Ryan or if you want to stack Atlanta players. Julio Jones at that price point, like he needs to go off for at least 30 to 35 points for you to get true value. And the savings you can get from him, you can put into other positions. So second time I've rostered him this season and second time I've whiffed. So my next pick was Michael Thomas. And this was my favorite pick from last week. I was super high on him. Tampa's run defense is great. Can't say the same for their pass defense. And, him and Teddy Bridgewater just basically torched them. So 44 points. Definitely happy with that. And he was only at like 6,600. So you like he was an automatic lock and load for me. Next pick was Mike Williams. I got him at really good ownership, less than 2%. He had a decent game for only being 4,500. What I was most encouraged about was that he got 13 targets. Actually, and Eckler got 16 as well. Between him and Eckler, they had 29 combined targets. That was it was just encouraging from a fantasy perspective to see. Obviously I can't be mad at that pick at 4,500. He did his job. My next pick was Mark Andrews. The tight end position I really didn't like focus on a lot. I basically it was basically like who the remaining cash I had left over, like who can I play. I know Tyler Eifert he was probably like a go-to pick just because he was playing the Cardinals, but I didn't trust him with the target share, so I stuck with one of the big five, if you could say, and went with Andrews. My next pick, Will Fuller. That's courtesy of Lawrence. He got me onto him, so thank you for that. Monster game, 56 points, almost 57, and he almost had another touchdown too. He could have easily had over 60 points. If you didn't have him in your lineup, along with one of Michael Thomas or CMC or Aaron Jones, you probably didn't cash this week. So thank you, Lawrence, for that pick. Definitely saved me. So the last play was I believe I played the Titans defense, and they did all right, I guess. They held Buffalo scoreless for a while, and then Buffalo came back to win. They got me 7 points. It's fine. Defense is defense, but obviously you want someone like Carolina or Eagles or Philadelphia in that position. But overall, I can't complain about this week. Did really, in my opinion, I did pretty well. Got a lot of my picks correct, so it came out in the green. So yeah,
that's solid. Dhruv, want to talk a little bit about your lineup?
Sure. So I didn't play as much as I normally do last week just because I knew I'd be out on vacation, but I did enter a few lineups, and this was my best one. So I had a Deshaun Watson, Will Fuller stack, which basically carried me to success this week. Um, they combined for a total of 90 plus points.
I
And
think they combined for more than that.
oh yeah, sorry, my math is a little off.
100 points.
Points. Well, I wasn't wrong.
You were technically right.
So yeah, they got like a little bit over 101 points combined, which is pretty ridiculous for two players to do that. And then on top of that, I also had Michael Thomas. I was kind of hyped to go watch him play live at the Superdome, and decided to roster him for that reason alone. I had no other reason to do it, to be honest. I mean, I did like the matchup, but I just wanted something to root for while I was at the game, and I ended up rooting for something that panned out, and he actually got 44 points. So those three players combined got me 145 plus, which is pretty crazy for three players. And then the other call that I had, I think I discussed this a little bit in the chat, and I was starting to second guess myself a little bit, but I'm glad I stuck it out, was Josh Jacobs. Uh, his price was like super cheap. I think he was 4,500, and I actually got him at barely half a percentage ownership, just 0.52%, and he got 32 points, which is really really good. He had a breakout game, like over 120 rushing yards against the Bears defense and 2 touchdowns. That was an impressive outing for Josh Jacobs. I think from this point forward, I don't see his price ever getting that low. He's probably going to start being in the 6K range pretty soon once he comes off that bye week. And I think his passing game involvement will increase as well over the season. So that was a call that I was happy about. Couple spots where there's more left to be desired. First one, I keep going back to this guy foolishly, and I'm probably going to do it again this week. And if it doesn't work out this week, it's just probably the last time I'm going to roster him unless he gets traded, and that's Stephon Diggs. I thought the matchup against the Giants was a juicy one. I thought that he was in the spot to be contrarian, which he was, 2% ownership, and Adam Thielen stole all his fantasy points. So fell victim to that. Only got me 7.5 points basically. And then Jimmy Graham, I thought was going to garner more targets, more production. He didn't kill me at that price point, but tight end was kind of a really bad position this past week. I think Darren Fells was probably like the top scorer or top 2.
Top 2. I think Zach Ertz is still 1.
Okay. So it was a really tough position on the week. So I guess Jimmy Graham didn't kill me, but obviously I would have liked for, maybe a 20-point outing. And Titans defense, I thought they were going to have a pretty solid game against the Bills, and just didn't work out quite as well as I wanted. But 7 points is not bad. Could be worse. And the last 2 players that I had were David Johnson, who was extremely chalky at 46%. He didn't kill me, didn't do amazing either. Kind of wish I took Aaron Jones there, but it is what it is. And the last one is Austin Eckler, and I got completely bailed out by like the last drive of the game where he got like 5 catches. He ended up with 15 catches for 86 yards, which is not very common for a running back.
Kind of sucks that in my season-long league where I have Austin Eckler, it's a non-PPR league.
Yeah, you have him in the wrong format. I have him in a PPR league, and it's because he's still great even with Gordon back, but to have him in a non-PPR, that's tough because you missed out on 15 points. But yeah, so I think he basically hit value. He's contrarian. Let's see if he can keep it up. I think I think if the Chargers are smart, they'll start giving him more carries because 3 carries for this guy is just kind of a joke. He was top 5 running back all season, and it feels like the Chargers lost that game because they force-fed Melvin Gordon, which is a bad decision. Just because he's got, you know, name value from his past performance doesn't mean he should be rewarded with carries now with the way Austin Eckler's performing. And I hope they correct that going forward.
Yeah. And I guess for my GPP lineup, for the sake of time, I'll just run through it pretty fast because most of these players we've already talked about. Did the same thing you did, went with the Will Fuller, Deshaun Watson stack. That stack got over 100 points. I played Michael Thomas, like you mentioned as well, in my GPP lineup. And what I found really interesting is that all these like super chalky guys in cash just did not go highly owned in GPPs. Like these guys are pretty low owned comparatively. So that's something maybe that I'm kind of interested in looking at going forward. Maybe rostering some of my cash guys more in GPP lineups because it feels like people are just not on these guys in GPPs, even though they're good players for a reason. Maybe they're trying to think too hard by fading these guys. But these guys are in great spots, and Fuller definitely has a ceiling to win you GPPs like he did this week. But the other plays I did, I stacked the running backs in the Carolina Jacksonville game, went with CMC. Only 23% owned, which I found pretty surprising. Ran it back with Leonard Fournette at only 12% owned. They both had very good games. Wide receiver, I played what I thought was going to be a chalk wide receiver in On Tate. Ended up only going 24% owned. Kind of got bailed out by him. He had a touchdown go right through his hands in the first quarter, but managed to catch one at the end of the game to kind of meet value. Otherwise, he was looking like a bust for the week. In my flex spot, I played Aaron Jones. Same reason why I said earlier. Only 10% owned. I thought that was really low. Getting that ownership, I thought was pretty enticing. For my tight end, like you guys both mentioned already, tight end was a dead spot for DFS this week. Personally, went with Darren Waller. Only got 8 catches. The Chicago defense is real solid. Don't really like rostering guys against them. But I guess this week was the week to roster Josh Jacobs, and you got him at 0.5 ownership, which was insane. Last but not least, this is what I would have actually shipped a lot of GPP lineups this week if I played the Panthers defense, which was the chalk defense over the Bengals defense. Obviously, the reason I played the Bengals defense was because I watched Kyler Murray play every week, and I've watched him give up like 10 sacks every week and kind of wanted a piece of that pie. And I figured it would be a little more contrarian than playing the Panthers defense. But, hey, playing the Panthers defense, you would have won GPPs this week. So maybe I made the wrong choice there, but that's all hindsight.
And you got 8 out of 9 of the basically
I got 8 out of 9 of the best lineup for the week, yeah.
So that's pretty damn good.
Pretty happy about that. Yeah, this is a new week. That makes 5 weeks in a row where our cash game lineups have kind of cashed every cash game, and we've been up on the season for GPP lineups too. So hopefully we can continue that success. So what are your thoughts for cash games this week, Dhruv? I guess we can talk about it real fast.
Real quick, you took home a tourney in DraftKings, right, Lawrence?
Yeah, I took home a 100-man tourney, which was it was a $5 100-man tourney, and then all I literally did was enter my cash game lineup, and it won first place. So
hey man, a ship is a ship, all right? We got to celebrate that.
Yeah, I guess so. Wanted a bigger prize pool, but I'm totally cool turning $5 into 70 with my cash game play.
Well done, sir.
Congrats on that.
Well, thank you. Hopefully we can continue that heater this week.
Yeah.
So what about cash game QBs, Dhruv? What are you thinking is going to happen this week?
So I'm actually looking at this for the first time. So I'm scrolling through this and making decisions live. So the first name that stands out to me is Matt Ryan. I think it's really hard to fade anyone that's playing against the Cardinals' pass defense. And I believe Patrick Peterson is still out. One more game.
One more week, yeah.
Yeah, so a Matt Ryan and any of those 3 wide receivers or Austin Hooper's stack looks very solid this week from a cash game or GPP perspective.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I think Matt Ryan's a great play in cash games. I think you can go there. I think it can be a little.
You could take Kyle Murray also because the Falcons defense is very easy to throw on, it seems.
I think you can definitely go there too. My only concern with both of them in cash games is that they're priced a little bit higher than I like them to be.
Mm-hmm.
When just 300 more, you get someone like Deshaun Watson going up against Kansas City.
That's a good
just
point. Or you can get Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson's just a couple hundred more than that. Like, I just feel like they're priced so close together that if I had to choose between Ryan or Jackson or Ryan or Watson or like Murray and Jackson or Murray or Watson, I might want to go Murray. I want to go with the Watson Jackson tandem instead. But I think they're all close. Like, I think they're all definitely cash game viable plays.
I think you'd be fine with any of those 4. To be
I think you'll be okay.
I think if you want to go cheap, this might be a week where you could take Kirk Cousins because you.
Oh, well, I'm leaving Kirk Cousins for my GPP plays, but
yeah. No, I think any of these guys are cash and GPP viable. Kirk Cousins, you can't run on Philly. We've learned for the first 5 weeks, you just can't run on them. I mean, if there's anyone that possibly could, I guess it would be Dalvin Cook, but they have basically stopped any run game from, doing any type of damage at all in the first 5 weeks.
Yeah. So speaking of Philly run defense, we're moving on to running backs now. My favorite cash game running back this week is actually the running back that just got stifled by the Philly pass or rush defense. And I think Le'Veon Bell is in an amazing spot for cash games. I think he's priced cheap enough that you can plug him in. I think he has definitely enough touch potential between his rushes and his targets. And with Darnold back and against Dallas that just got completely shredded by Aaron Jones, I think Le'Veon Bell is where you kind of where you should look to for your cheap running back in cash games.
I like that. His price has dropped quite a bit. He seems like he's in a pretty good spot considering the volume that he's getting. And now that Sam Darnold's back, he'll have someone that can actually complete a pass. And I'm sure that does not hurt his outlook.
Yep. Next up, I think the tough decision here that people are going to have this week is which high price running back they want to plug into their lineup. And I think it's definitely going to be, I think both Kamara and Zeke are in decent spots. So I think Bell, you definitely plug in. I think you choose one of Kamara or Zeke if you really want to. And just from first glance, it looks like I think Leonard Fournette might be another cash game viable running back. And I think you kind of go 3 of those guys.
What about Mark Ingram?
I think Mark Ingram can be a good play. I just don't like his price versus I think he can definitely get into the end zone against Cincinnati. I just don't like when I make my cash game plays, I like knowing that my running back's going to get at least maybe like 20 to 25 touches.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if I can project Ingram for that many touches. And he doesn't really get.
Ingram is that he's on a receiving back too.
Yeah, and he's not going to get any of those 1 PPRs for receiving touches like someone like Fournette or Bell or Zeke or what was the other guy that I said? Kamara might.
Gotcha. I mean, maybe Ingram is more of a GPP play.
I think he's a great GPP play. I definitely would. Yeah, I would definitely talk about him in GPP. I think those are the guys that I would really look at. I don't know if there's anybody else that you'd want to add, potentially.
I think you pretty much covered. Maybe Derrick Henry against Denver, but I think that's more of a GPP play as well. think
Yeah.
guys you mentioned are more cash. Um, you, I think the strategy has been paying up for running back in cash.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of those things where you don't try to fix it, you know?
Yeah. And the only other one that I would kind of consider would be like Nick Chubb, but his price is a little bit high too. I really think the optimal construction this week would probably involve. I think Bell is definitely in cash game lineups. I think one of Kamara and Zeke is definitely in cash game lineups, and then that third one you kind of just have to. I guess hopefully we'll get more news as the week progresses.
I think Edmonds, if David Johnson is ruled out,
Oh,
becomes
for
necessary.
sure. Chase Edmonds for sure will be a cash game
Yeah.
play if David Johnson is somehow ruled out. Yeah, let's move on to wide receiver. This is where it gets a little bit tricky this week for cash game plays. I think there's just so many viable plays for wide receiver. Like I don't even know where I want to go, like how I want to do this in cash. I just hopefully some value will open up later in the week to kind of help out with cash games. But honestly, right now, like I don't know. I I don't even know if I want to roster DeAndre Hopkins in cash the way that he's been playing this year, but I feel like he's the best cash game play, but he's also the most expensive.
So I think the best. I mean DeAndre Hopkins is a good cash game play, but I think the best cash game play I see here is Michael Gallup. At 5,600, he hasn't. I mean, he's played 3 games, but his floor is 13 points, and that was against Washington. He got 14 targets against Green Bay. He hasn't had any targets less than 7. And so at 5,600 against the Jets, he could. I mean, he's not at a he's at a pretty good price point.
I kind of like him more in GPP personally.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't know. It's hard. I just think it's hard. I like Michael Gallup. I might like him more in GPPs. Like I'm looking for. I think a reason why he got so many targets last week too was because Dallas is getting completely blown out. So his stats seem a little bit inflated because Amari Cooper also put up like 200 yards and
Yeah.
got a crap ton of targets too. Like they just abandoned the run game completely. And I feel like versus the Jets, if the Jets are as bad as we think they are, Dallas is favored by 8 points. It might be more of like a Ezekiel Elliott kind of game. But who knows? It's hard right now. I definitely think we can consider him. Another guy, same price that I kind of like more in cash that I might consider is DJ Chark. 5,500 is the same price as $100 cheaper than Michael Gallup. Has had 2 huge games so far this year, and his floor seems to be like 10 points this year. Think he could be a decent cash game play.
I'm not gonna go there just because I saw what Marshawn Lattimore did to Mike Evans, and man, that was brutal. That was brutal.
I mean, you say that, but James Bradbury was on Chark last week, and Chark still came up huge.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
But man, a donut for Mike Evans. Oof.
I mean, Lattimore just has so much real estate in Mike Evans' head, though. Like, Lattimore owns him ever since his rookie year.
Yeah, he put that on full display Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, other than that, like, I feel like, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to go there, but Mohamed Sanu at only 4,500.
I like that.
Viable. I just don't know if I like Sanu's floor. It's just cash games is going to be difficult this week. I don't know. I actually have no advice for you guys currently on Wednesday because
boy Preston Williams is in a decent spot. To be honest.
That's the only surefire shot.
Albert Wilson's projected to be back this week.
He is. Okay. That kind of changes that dynamic a little bit.
Oh man, that's Rosen's boy right there, Preston and Rosen.
Well, if Hill and Watkins aren't back, Byron Pringle is probably a must play as well.
My gosh.
Is he? I mean, I don't know. Don't they have
I don't
like
know,
Robinson
man.
and Hardman and all that? Like
9 targets, 103 yards last week.
Kelsey, yeah, but Demarcus Robinson had like I don't know that Kansas City receiving cord.
3,500 in a game that's probably going to shoot out if Watkins and Hill are out, I think is pretty good at 3,500.
I want to recommend OBJ, but I just don't know if I can do it at 6,800 after
Okay.
his last week.
We got to give the people 3 receivers. We just got to do it. So
This is cash game though. Like they don't need our cash game plays right now. I'll give you one receiver that I'm probably gonna play that,
okay.
And that's basically DJ Chark. That's who I'm kind of looking at in cash game to fit my lineup.
DJ Chark, final answer.
Yeah, that's my final answer.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Larry Fitzgerald.
That's a good play too. I don't like his price, but I think that's a good play. What about you, Yash?
I'm going back to Gallup.
Okay.
All right. I guess those are our cash game wide receivers. Tight ends a little easier. I just got one name for you, maybe 2 names. I'll give you 3 names. I think you can play any of these 3 guys. Actually, you can play any of these 4 guys. Why not? You can play Kittle versus the Rams. You can play Mark Andrews versus the Bengals. Where I'm thinking about going is you can play Austin Hooper against the Cardinals. And then probably not going to go there, but we've made this a caveat on our podcast every week. Travis Kelce is in play as a cash game tight end. But I think I'm definitely going to try and go with the savings and go for one of those 3 that I mentioned first. They're basically within $400 of each other. So I think either of them can be a good cash game play.
I mean, I think we could make like this section easy and just go with Hooper.
I'm cool with Hooper as the play.
Yeah. And then defense. Do we want to talk about defense?
We can pick one for cash.
Sure. Give me the Vikings.
Take it. That's fine. Vikings is fine. I think another good defense is the Ravens against the Bengals that are completely banged up at the wide receiver position and still have Andy Dalton throwing the football. So I'm pretty sure the Ravens are in a good spot this week.
I would like them more if I feel like I could fit them at 4,100 into my lineup. Just feels like I need that salary somewhere else.
I hear you, but they have the potential to be a 20.
In a vacuum, without salary, not considering salary, I think the Ravens are a great play.
Fair.
What about you, Yash? By the way, for the first time I've ever seen, there are 3 defenses less than $2,000. I've never seen that before in DraftKings pricing, but apparently defenses can now go lower than $2,000
for good reason.
I mean the Jets. I mean
I almost want to take the Jets at 1,500. That's honestly, such a ridiculous price.
They're not. They haven't done as a defense. They haven't done bad. They put up 18 against Buffalo. They put up 16 against the Patriots. They've gotten interceptions in almost every game. They've gotten sacks in every game. Like
I think that's a GPP play though, not a.
Yeah, that's such a silly price. Yeah, I'm going with the Vikings.
For me, I think like the Saints. For me.
Okay, I'm cool with it. Yeah, let's move on. GPP plays, our favorite part of the show. Give us your favorites, or one, maybe 2 if you really want to. Favorite GPP QBs. Dhruv, you start.
First one, Kirk Cousins.
You just took mine. I definitely want to say that. Come on, man. All right, go for it. Go for it. You can.
That's what you can't let me go first then.
All right, go for it. Go for it.
Kirk Cousins.
All right, talk to us about Kirk Cousins.
Okay. You cannot run the football on the Philadelphia Eagles this year. They shut down every run game that there is. So how do you defeat them, or how do you get points on them? You throw the ball.
You could have told Matt LaFleur that, but apparently the Packers kept wanting to run the ball against them.
Yeah, that was a terrible decision. But I think Kirk Cousins is in a good spot to potentially far exceed value this week, which feels really weird to say, but here we are. And I think this is finally the week where Stephon Diggs has a good game. I'm hoping. Um, my second GPP quarterback. Give me Kyler Murray. I think he's ready for that super breakout game, that 30 plus game. I think this is the week. I think
All
he's
right.
trending in that direction. I think it hasn't been officially reported yet, but I think Christian Kirk will be back this week, and I think that having all his weapons, playing against a team that's going to be throwing the ball a lot as well, there's going to be the potential for him to uh, score 30 plus points this week. So give me Kyler Murray.
All right. Yash, you're up.
All right. So just obligatory from last episode if everyone missed it. Basically, Lamar Jackson is always a good player no matter what.
Except last week.
Except last week where he was just awful, but he's always a good play.
Even when he's awful, he gets double digits though. Awful is
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield getting -2. That's awful.
Yeah. So I just want to reiterate that point for this episode, just in case people missed the last episode. But back to the my two quarterbacks. So it's sort of, you know, I'm going from the top of the top to the bottom of the bottom. My first pick is Patrick Mahomes. I think he's just going to come out guns blazing, especially if Tyreek Hill is back in the lineup. He had a rough game against Indianapolis. I think this is a great bounce back spot, and he's going to I have a feeling he's going to torch this Houston secondary. So at 7,500, he is a little expensive, but he could definitely pop off and go for 40 plus points. And my second pick is Josh Rosen. At 4,500 against a leaky Washington secondary, he could exceed value, and he's already been named starter for the rest of the year. So I feel like that takes a little weight off his shoulders. I feel like he can go out there and play a little bit more freely. Like I said, 4,500. I think he can definitely put up anywhere between 20 to 30 points. So yeah.
All right, solid. Yeah, for me, my favorite GPP QB is actually, I got two of them in the same game. I think this game has shootout potential. I think both QBs are going to be super low owned. And it's going to be Russell Wilson at 6,600 and Baker Mayfield at 5,500. Give me Baker at 5,500. Dude just got -2 points in a primetime game. No one's going to be on Baker. But I think against the Seahawks secondary, he's primed for a breakout game, especially after he's been in some really tough matchups so far. Yeah, give me Baker Mayfield. I think this is the game where he gets OBJ going. And then Russell Wilson, I get a feeling he's going to go super low owned. And this dude's got like a 25 floor. He put up 44 points earlier this year against New Orleans trying to come back. And I get a feeling that this game is a game where Seattle might be trailing. I kind of like the Browns a lot in this game. I think it's a great bounce back spot for them. And I think they're going to score. Russell Wilson's going to have to throw to keep up. I think Russell Wilson at 6,600, he's going to come in sub 5% owned, has as high as a ceiling as any other QB. So give me Wilson and Baker from that game.
That is a hot take. I like it.
Which one's a hot take?
Baker.
I thought you were a Baker supporter.
I am. That doesn't mean it isn't a hot take.
All right, running backs, Dhruv. What are your favorite GPP running backs?
So, I'm actually looking at a Miami Dolphin this week. I think Kenyon Drake at 4,400 is a little enticing to me. I think
You
that
took my running back
did I
again.
really
Yeah, but you know what? Go with it.
took your QB and your running back?
I like that we're on the same place though. So
Yeah, that's good. I think that he has been getting a decent amount of workload. I mean, he hasn't been getting a lot of carries, but that's because his team's been getting blown out every game. But in spite of that, he's been getting a fair share of targets. And people can say they have a good idea of where this game's going to go, but both of these teams are trash. And even though Miami is actively tanking, there's a chance that they could actually win this game. And Kenyon Drake is in line for a large workload this week. And coming off a bye week, I'm pretty sure that he's going to be fresh and they're going to have a solid game plan going into this week. And I think you can run on the Redskins. So give me Kenyon Drake this week as my running back.
nice. You only got one running back for us.
I will give you a second one now.
One's fine.
No, I think it's important to give two because there's two RB spots.
Okay.
So
Okay.
let's go with two. Uh, I'm gonna take Yash's boy Derrick Henry this week against the Denver Broncos. I think that the Broncos have a pretty bad run defense. It didn't get exposed by Melvin Gordon, but it pretty much has gotten exposed by every other running back. And I think Derrick Henry will be able to do that this week. I think that if Austin Eckler got his normal workload, the Chargers would have won that game. He probably would have had insane numbers, but for some reason the agenda was to give the ball to Melvin Gordon. But if you look at the weeks prior to that, the running back has pretty much killed the Denver Broncos, and I think Derrick Henry's in a good spot to do that this week.
Solid. Yash, who do you got?
So Alvin Kamara, I was always going to play in Cash and GPP. I think he's going up against Jacksonville, the same team that Christian McCaffrey just went nuclear on. So at 8,000, I think you could. He's definitely a lock in for one of my running back spots. Dhruv actually took. You mentioned Derrick Henry, and he was my second running back. So I'm gonna go.
You should just take Drew's running back. He mentioned Mark Ingram, then just completely ignored him.
That was gonna be my flex, but yeah, go ahead and take.
I mean, Mark Ingram, he's in a great spot.
He is.
This is a game where Baltimore is favored to be up, so he'll probably get quite a few attempts. But I may or may not roster him. I don't know. I see. There's two other plays that I like more than Ingram, and the first one was Chris Carson. He's going up against Cleveland. Cleveland just got shredded by the Niners run game. And another important note about Chris Carson is that after the third game, the Seattle coaching staff, the running back coaches, actually changed the way he ran with the ball and so basically what the change was, before his arms were going just up and down, right, on his side. What they did was they basically they told him to change his running style to where he runs with his arms going across his chest to secure the ball more. That's been pretty good for him so far. He hasn't fumbled the ball in the last 2 games, and he's actually done pretty well. So he's my first GPP pick. My second one is Devontae Freeman, and he's in a great spot against Arizona. He's a receiving back, and he's also the main running back for Atlanta. And I think this is going to be a pretty fast-paced game. So I could definitely see him having a great game. He may not get any touchdowns, but I think he'll rack up enough running yards and receiving yards as well as receptions to where he could put up 20 points without a touchdown. So those are my 2 picks.
Yeah, I like it. I wanted to say Devontae Freeman. And I think Chris Carson's a great pick. You guys basically touched on all the running backs that I really like for this week in GPPs. Uh, yeah, I guess let's move on to wide receivers.
Looking easy.
Yeah, I mean, the only other one that I would kind of mention is I think if David Johnson is not injured, I think he makes for a great GPP play like he has all year uh, as a low owned kind of guy. Guy has such a huge floor. Now he's getting like 5 receptions a game or like 10 targets a game, 5 receptions. I don't know. This guy's has like a floor of like 20 right now, 7,600. We still haven't seen a ceiling game yet from David Johnson. So I'm still holding out hope that he has that in there somewhere. He's only scored like what, 2 touchdowns this whole year? Yeah. One of these games, David Johnson is going to blow up, and against Atlanta, I think has a huge chance if he's not hurt. And then the other, I guess I'll mention one more. I'm gonna group them together, but you can play the running backs against Kansas City. Pick and choose whichever one you want to play.
Duke Johnson.
I can't. I don't know which one you should play, but I definitely think one of them exceeds their price, exceeds value at their price.
Okay.
All right, wide receivers. Let's start with Yash this time, so Dhruv won't take our plays.
So I'll have three picks.
Go for it.
First pick I really like is Thielen. Philadelphia. Lawrence made a great point where Philadelphia, in order to beat them, you gotta beat them in the air.
That was true, but I appreciate it.
Oh, Dhruv. So
Never wants to give you credit for anything.
Honestly, I think because you were gone in the last episode, and I think Lawrence made that point, that's why it stuck. So,
I see.
At 6,700, I mean, he's a target magnet. I think you touched on Diggs a little bit. I think Diggs is more of like a big play type of receiver, and Thielen is just there for the receptions.
Mm-hmm.
So at 6,700, like I really like him. My second pick is Taylor McLaurin from Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin.
Taylor McLaurin?
Damn, dude. I went like 4 weeks without a fucking mispronunciation, right?
But that was a mispronunciation. That was just like a misnamed.
Just like missed the name.
Like me and Deshaun Watson every week.
I wanted to say like Terry or something. Like
I heard you pause on Deshaun Watson there.
Got to figure out that last. I called him Deshaun Jackson. Called him Deshaun
I think you called him Wilson too, right? Deshaun
Wilson. Yeah. I just get him confused with all the other mobile quarterbacks. Yeah,
so, I really like Terry McLaurin. I think he's gonna have a great bounce back game. I think one of you showed a tweet about he was being shadowed by
Stephon Gilmore.
Yeah. And he still was able to rack up 51 yards on 3 receptions, which doesn't sound great, but against a daunting Patriots defense, that's still decent. So I'm expecting him to have a great bounce back game here. And of course, my last play, Preston Williams, 4,100. Like, this is the breakout game for him. They've been in such difficult spots. I mean, well, every game has been difficult for them, but this is now they're playing a team that's basically on their level, as surprising as that is. And so at 4,100, even though Albert Wilson's coming back, I mean, that's all good. He's still going to be playing 75-80% of the snaps, and against a leaky Washington secondary, don't be surprised to see a 100-yard, 2-touchdown game from him. So yeah, I'll end it on that note.
All right, Dhruv. No Preston Williams for you.
Oh man,
what are you gonna do now?
No, you can never have enough of Preston Williams, Dhruv. If you want to put him down, go for
it. Double down, huh? No, I'm gonna actually take this guy regrettably again and hopefully it finally pays off. I think Stephon Diggs is a GPP play this week. Um, if he doesn't perform this week, then I'm not going to roster him again unless he gets traded. But this has to be the week, Stephon Diggs. Like, come on, dude. Just do it, man. Just do
Yeah,
it. Get 25 fantasy points. You
he's
have
got
it in you.
this.
You have it in you. You can do this. But yeah, this has got to be the week for him, and I have a good feeling it will be. And if it isn't, then he's on the, you know, not draft list.
Blacklist.
Yeah, he's on the blacklist for. I won't dig that if he messes up. But yeah. Anyway, the next play that I like this week, who you claimed as your cash play, is DeAndre Hopkins. Why not? You're going up against Kansas City. This game is projected to be a shootout. If there's any week for him to bounce back, it's got to be this one. And he's got a matchup against a really, easy secondary to throw on. So him and Stephon Diggs need to show up this week, because if they don't do it this week, then I don't know when it's going to happen. And for my third receiver, I like my boy Cortland Sutton again. If he ends up playing, this guy hasn't let me down yet. Every time I've taken him, so I'm gonna continue to go there. I've taken him 2 weeks in a row, and he has delivered. And I'm willing to take him for a third straight time against Malcolm Butler. I think that's the guy that's projected to defend him, and I think you can throw on Malcolm Butler all day. So give me Cortland Sutton against the Titans.
All great plays. I have no qualms about any of them. We already mentioned Adam Thielen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yash took him. All right, so I'll give you. I guess I'll give you. Maybe I'll give you three. Well, first play that I like in GPP is wide receiver for the New York Jets. I guess I'm just on the Jets this whole week. Give me Jamison Crowder. Crowder's only 4K. Sam Darnold's back. Crowder had 15 targets in week one?
Yeah.
15 catches in week one? I don't know how many he had, but
15 for 99.
There you go. Crowder's back, or Darnold's back. Crowder's 4K. Jets are projected to lose, and they'll need to catch up. And who better than to target Jamison Crowder when I think maybe Byron Jones might be on Robbie Anderson the whole game. So like some Crowder. 4,000, I think he can meet value. Another play that I like for GPPs this week, I talked about in my cash game plays, but I'm probably going to play DJ Chark again in GPPs. I just don't think people realize how good this guy is. I don't think he's going to line up with Lattimore the whole game, because I think he comes in and out of the slot sometimes. I think him and Westbrook kind of rotate that position, but I do like DJ Chark, both in cash and GPPs. And then my last play for GPPs, I really want to go with one of these Rams wide receivers. I just don't know which one I want to go to, so I might just pass on that.
What about Cooper Kupp? Look, his numbers are insane right now.
His numbers are insane right now, but San Francisco is a really solid defense. And the thing is, Brandon Cooks is questionable, right? We don't know if he's in or out after his concussion. I think if he's out, I'm definitely going to look more towards these Rams wide receivers. But as it is, I think I still want a piece of that. They're like the second highest implied team total. Gurley is projected to be – I don't know if Gurley's going to play or not. He might be hurt. And if he is – that's something that we should probably mention too. If Gurley's hurt, whoever's backing him up, maybe Malcolm Brown becomes a viable GPP and cash game play too. I don't know. I want like that SF rush is so good too that I kind of want a piece of this quick outs. I mean, Cooper Cup and Robert Woods are both good when it comes to those routes. I don't know. I definitely want to wait for the news, but something to consider there. You mentioned Michael Gallup earlier. I think he's also a great GPP play. And the one that I kind of want to talk about too is Jarvis Landry. I think is in a great spot in GPPs. Uh, Only 5,200. That's so low for Jarvis Landry. I think I'm just very bullish on this Cleveland Seattle game in general. I think it has potential to shoot out. I think that Cleveland offense looks so putrid against the Niners on Monday night. I think they get a better spot here in Seattle. I think they're able to get their offense kind of back on track. And it starts with Landry, OBJ, Chubb, Baker. Like these guys are responsible for getting this offense back on track. And I want pieces from that team. Seahawks just haven't been good against the pass this year. And Jarvis Landry at 5,200, I think is in a great spot.
Nice.
Tight ends. Dhruv, who do you like?
So there's two tight ends that I like this week. If Mark Andrews is healthy, I think he's in a really good game against the Bengals. Lamar Jackson really loves this guy, especially in the red zone. So I would expect Mark Andrews to have a really nice game this week. And my other tight end, both of these guys you mentioned for cash, but other tight end is George Kittle. I think that the Niners have been in very like run-heavy game flow type of scenarios, and this might actually be the first week where that needs to change a little bit because this is going to be a potentially competitive game. And by all indications, it seems like Jimmy Garoppolo really likes looking for George Kittle. And I think the tight end position is one that the Rams have struggled to defend. So give me George Kittle this week. I mean, we just saw Will Dissly have a really nice game against them last week. So I think George Kittle is in a good spot to potentially far exceed value this week.
I like it. Yash, what about you?
I think Dhruv said. Who did you say, Dhruv? You said Kittle and Andrews.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, either Kittle, Hooper, or Disley for me. And it's I think we've already talked about them. Dhruv already talked about Kittle. Hooper is in a smash spot against Arizona, and Disley is Russell Wilson's second favorite target on the team. So.
Yeah, I guess I'll go a little more outside the box than you guys. Like I said, man, just monitor this Ram situation. I think Gerald Everett can be a great play. Dude's put up monster weeks back to back for the Rams. Only 3,600 still. Could be a solid play in the GPP. This guy's had a catch every week this year. And last week just put up 136 yards on the Seahawks.
Yo, real quick, I thought this dude was a wide receiver.
Gerald Everett?
Yeah.
He's a big wide receiver, but yeah, I kept looking at his number. I was just like, oh, that's looks like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, dude could run. He had a fumble. No, I thought he had a fumble. He had a really bad miscatch, but no, yeah. Gerald Everett, if cooks it out, becomes a even better play. And then I really like Delaney Walker as well. They're both the same price. I just think that with the Tennessee wide receivers, one of them is going to get shadowed all day by Chris Harris, who, man, he's looked good outside the slot too. Managed to shut down Keenan Allen last week. Nobody's managed to do that yet all year. I just don't want any part of going up against Chris Harris. And last week, I think Delaney Walker ended up blocking a lot because of the game flow. And I think if he's forced to run more routes, get himself open with the other receivers being covered, I think Delaney Walker is in play for a big game against the Broncos at only 3,700. Moving on to defenses. Who do you like, Dhruv?
So I like two defenses that will probably be contrarian. The first one is the Washington Redskins. at 3,200. At this point, starting any team against Miami has worked out in that team's favor. I still think we don't really know how this game will go, but even so, there's a good chance for a lot of turnovers from Josh Rosen and a decent amount of sacks. So give me the Redskins. And the second defense, which we all just noticed while we were scrolling through,
Come
was
on,
the
you only
Jets.
get one. You only get one
Jets at
defense.
1,500. I steal all your plays. Deal with it. Come up with your own. Uh, yeah, that's pretty good value if you're trying to sneak in a expensive lineup. 1,500 for a defense that's had positive points each game. Yeah, let's take the Jets at 1,500.
All right, Yash. No more Jets for us. Who do you like?
I mean, no more Jets. I'm just gonna leave the defense spot open then. Fuck that shit.
I don't think that's an option, sir.
And who picks two defenses? Let me ask you that. Who the fuck picks two defenses? What bullshit is that?
You know, I rostered 3 defenses the year that I beat you in the finals, right?
Shut the fuck
So,
up.
you know, nothing wrong with rostering an extra defense when it matters.
Okay, so I don't know. I was gonna pick the Jets.
We've gone off the rails now. Dhruv messed us all up.
Jets.
Oh.
Jets. Let's move on.
I like just Kansas City actually has a decent defense this season. Their secondary is decent. Houston has a terrible O-line, so maybe all the that fat ass contract that they give Frank Clark, he could probably do something against that Houston O-line. So I'm gonna go with if I don't roster the Jets, I'll probably go with Kansas City.
I think that's a great contrarian defense pick. All right. Well, since I can't choose the Jets, we're gonna go with the Bengals. See what I did there? 1,700, only just 200 more than the Jets. All they need to do is just give me 2 points. Give me 2 Lamar Miller sacks. I don't care if they give up 30 points. They could get a Lamar Miller.
That's going to be pretty hard, man. You went from butchering his name to not even getting his entire name right.
Lamar Jackson, sorry. Man, I just get him and Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson. They all have the same names, man. It's late. Lamar Jackson, give me 2 Lamar Jackson sacks, maybe a interception, maybe a fumble, maybe a punt return touchdown. But Bengals at 1,700, they don't need to do much. Just don't get you negative, and that opens up so much like cap space for your squad. And then the other defense that I like, I'll pick 2 just because I used one on the Bengals I didn't really want to use. I like where'd they go? I like the Jaguars defense at home against the Saints. Only 2,200. I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to regress a little bit. Dude just had a game of his life, and playing at Jacksonville is not the easiest place to go. And that front 5, 7, 8, whatever, anything but their secondary is still very good.
Jalen Ramsey might play too.
And if Jalen Ramsey plays, I just like that play even more. So only 2,200. Give me the Jacks defense.
Cool.
Moving on. Spread picks. We somehow managed to go 1-1 again. I missed my pick. Yash hit his. I don't know our exact number for the year, but it's still way above.
It's 9-4.
Is it 9-4 now, or is it 10-5? 10-4. Maybe you're right. I don't know. Look at the description.
I missed one and Dhruv missed one, so we only had 13 picks.
All right. Yeah. So, who do you guys have? Who do you guys like for this week? Hopefully, we can get back on track with a 2-1 or 3-0 week.
Give me the Falcons -2.5 at the terrible Arizona Cardinals. I will lock that in for the week.
All right. Just want you to know the Falcons are also very terrible.
I do know this, but I think the Cardinals is more terrible, and I will give the Falcons the edge this week.
All right. I like it. Yash, which over are you going with? I'm assuming you're going with an over.
I'm going with the over. I'm going with the over on the Dallas New York Jets game.
Solid.
What is the point total?
43. I got 43 on Odds Shark. So what are you seeing, Lawrence?
I see. Who would you say? Dallas, New York Jets. I see 44 actually. So,
Okay.
do
Give
you
me
still like?
43 and a half.
All right. Well, cut the difference. 43 and a half for you. And for me, I've mentioned this play like a bunch of times already. I think Cleveland's in a great bounce back spot. They're giving 1.5 points to the Seahawks, but you know what? Screw it. I'll take a money line. Cleveland wins outright against the Seahawks, and those are our plays for the week.
Wow.
What is that? Plus
got me
160, 170?
I don't know. Cleveland money line. Let's go. If you really want, they're like my plus 1.5. Take the plus 1.5. If you're gonna roll with me, I'm probably just gonna take the money line. I think Cleveland wins outright.
Do it,
Send us
baby.
off, Dhruv.
This has been another incredible episode of the Boardmen Don't Get Paid podcast. I am one of your 3 very sleepy hosts, and we will see you next week, hopefully with some good news. Hopefully one of us ships a tourney. Congrats again to my friend Lawrence Sue, who's extremely humble, but he actually did ship a tourney. It doesn't matter how small it was. He did ship one this week, and
Thank you.
he pretty much had the perfect lineup, just the defense. So if you are following this podcast, I would highly recommend listening to what Lawrence has to say if you're going to listen to any of us.
Not just me, man. We've all got good plays. You stole half my plays today, so listen to Dhruv too.
You're killing it this year, sir. So keep on.
Hopefully we'll be up again this week, and we'll bring some good news next week.
Absolutely.
Keep saying that. I'm just gonna knock on some wood.
Absolutely, this year has been stellar.
Yep.
All right, fellas, it's been a good night.
Have a good
With
one.
that, good night. Take care.
See you.